You arrive at the Viking settlement as night settles softly across the northern fjord, the last glow of twilight fading behind distant mountain ridges. From afar, the village appears as a scattering of warm lights, lanterns and hearthfires glowing against the deepening blue of the landscape. The settlement rests between land and water, timber longhouses arranged along the curve of the shoreline, their roofs edged with frost beneath the open sky. You walk slowly toward the outer boundary, where worn footpaths lead inward between wooden structures and low stone borders. The air is cold, but calm, carrying the faint scent of smoke rising from hearthfires within the homes. Above you, the first stars begin to appear, their light reflected faintly in the still fjord beyond the settlement. This is not the Viking world of sails and battle, but the quieter world that existed each night between voyages. The world of rest, of family, of animals settling into shelter, of fires burning low behind timber walls. You pass the first longhouse, its doorway closed, but warm light glowing through the small smoke vent above. Inside, families gather near hearths, sharing the final hours before sleep. Outside, the settlement paths lie nearly empty now, save for the occasional figure moving quietly between buildings. Completing the last small tasks of the day, a wooden cart rests near a storage shed, its wheels frosted lightly where evening cold has begun to settle. Nearby, bundles of firewood are stacked beneath a sloped awning, prepared for the coming days. Every object here reflects daily life paused, not abandoned, but resting. You continue walking toward the shoreline, where the fjord opens wide beneath the night sky. Fishing boats drift in their moorings, their hulls rocking gently against the tide. Lanterns hung along the docks cast trembling reflections across the water, gold light moving slowly across the dark surface. From this vantage, you can see the entire settlement breathing in stillness, homes glowing, boats resting, paths quiet, the world suspended between labor and sleep. And as the aurora begins to form faintly above the mountains, green light unfolding across the sky, the Viking settlement settles deeper into night. You step quietly toward one of the larger longhouses near the center of the settlement, its heavy wooden door closed against the night air, but warm light glowing faintly from the smoke vent above. You imagine stepping inside. The shift is immediate. Cold air gives way to steady warmth, the scent of burning wood mingling with wool, timber, and faint traces of cooked grain. At the center of the longhouse, the hearth burns low, its flames no longer rising high, but settling into a steady orange glow. Smoke drifts upward toward the roof opening, escaping slowly into the northern night. Along both sides of the hall, raised wooden platforms serve as seating by day, and sleeping spaces by night. Thick furs are laid across them now, blankets folded carefully, small personal belongings placed within reach. Families gather in clusters near the hearth, the final conversations of the day unfolding in low, measured tones. This is the world most Vikings knew far more intimately than ships or distant shores. The world of shared firelight. You notice how the interior is arranged with purpose. Tools hang from beams near the walls. Axes, knives, woven baskets, each placed where it can be reached easily at dawn. Shields may rest along one side, not displayed dramatically, but stored as part of daily life. Above, rafters hold bundles of dried herbs, and in colder months, strips of preserved meat hanging high where smoke helps protect them. Children sit close to their parents, their earlier energy softened by the long day. One leans sleepily against a wool-covered shoulder. Another traces patterns in the wood grain beside them. There is no separate room for each person. Life here is shared. Breathing, conversation, movement, all unfold within a single communal space. A pot near the hearth holds warm liquid still, perhaps broth or heated milk. Wooden cups are passed slowly between hands. No one rushes to finish. Evening is a gradual descent, not an abrupt ending. An older family member begins telling a quiet story, not loudly, not theatrically, but steadily. As flames flicker across the beams overhead, the story may be about ancestors, about harvests, about travels long past, or it may be about simple events of the day. Stories bind the settlement together. They pass knowledge without instruction. Children listen, absorbing tone as much as meaning. Outside, the aurora moves unseen above the roof. Inside, light remains steady and contained. You notice the textures of the space. Rough timber walls worn smooth where hands have brushed them for years. Woolen cloaks drying near the fire. Boots placed carefully by the entrance. Even in rest, order is maintained. Before sleep begins, bedding is checked. Furs are shaken loose. Blankets adjusted. Space made for each member of the household. There is no silence yet, but the volume lowers. Voices soften. Movements slow. The hearth burns lower still. Flames retreating into embers that glow steadily rather than leap. One by one, family members settle onto the raised platforms. Children first. They curl beneath thick coverings, breathing slowing as warmth surrounds them. Parents remain seated a little longer, watching the embers, listening to the steady rhythm of the hall. Outside the walls, wind brushes faintly across the settlement. Inside, the Longhouse holds warmth like a quiet shelter against the vast northern night. This was the true heart of Viking life. Not battlefields, not distant voyages, but shared firelight, shared stories, shared rest. And as the final voices fade into whispers, the Longhouse settles gently into sleep. You step back outside the Longhouse, the warmth of the hearth fading behind you as the night air returns. The settlement lies quiet now, its paths softened by frost, its buildings resting beneath the northern sky. From this vantage, you begin to see how the village is arranged. Longhouses form the heart of the settlement, their timber frames aligned along the curve of the fjord. Some stand larger than others, housing extended families, while smaller structures serve as workshops or storage spaces nearby. Footpaths wind gently between them, worn into the earth through years of repeated travel. You walk slowly along one of these paths, noticing how each building holds its own faint glow of life within. Light escapes through smoke vents, or through narrow openings near the doors, casting dim shapes onto the ground outside. Beyond the homes, animal enclosures rest in shadow. Wooden fencing surrounds small clusters of livestock, goats, sheep, perhaps a tethered horse shifting its weight in the night. You hear them before you see them. A low rustle of straw, the soft exhale of breath into cold air, the quiet movement of hooves adjusting for comfort. Animals settle just as families do, finding stillness after the day's labor. You pause near one enclosure, watching as a goat lifts its head briefly, ears twitching toward distant sound, before settling again into rest. The settlement's night sounds are subtle, never overwhelming, woven into the landscape rather than imposed upon it. Wind moves gently along the fjord, passing between buildings, brushing against roof edges and fence posts. Wood answers with faint creaks, timber adjusting to cooling temperatures. From the shoreline, you hear water meeting land, a slow, steady rhythm that continues regardless of human activity. Fishing boats shift slightly in their moorings, ropes tightening and loosening with the tide. Even at rest, the fjord remains alive with motion. You continue walking toward the outer boundary of the settlement, where the last buildings give way to open land. Here, a storage shed stands beside stacked bundles of firewood, its door secured against the cold. Nearby, a small watch lantern burns low, not for defense, but for guidance, marking pathways in deeper darkness. The settlement is not fortified like a fortress. Its protection comes from geography, from distance, from the quiet isolation of fjord life. You turn back once more, taking in the full view. Homes glowing faintly, animals resting, boats drifting, paths empty. Above, the aurora begins to gather strength again, green light unfurling slowly across the sky. It reflects faintly on rooftops, on the fjord's surface, on the still forms of the sleeping village below. You begin to understand the layout not just as structure, but as rhythm. Homes near hearth warmth, animals near shelter, boats near water access, storage near pathways. Every placement shaped by survival, but softened by time into familiarity. And now, with all movement slowed, the settlement exists in its most peaceful state, held in quiet, defined by gentle sound, resting beneath the vast northern night. You walk slowly toward the outer edge of the settlement, where the last timber structures give way to open land. Behind you, the village rests in soft lantern glow. Before you, the landscape widens into darkness. The ground slopes gently upward from the shoreline, covered in frost-touched grasses that glimmer faintly beneath the aurora's light. Low stone boundaries mark cultivated land, fields that by day hold barley and hardy crops, but now lie still beneath the quiet sky. Beyond them, the wilderness begins. You pause at the boundary where human order fades into natural terrain. Tall pines rise in clusters along the hillside, their dark forms standing motionless against the stars. Branches shift lightly as wind moves through them, a soft whisper traveling through needles and bark. No torches burn here. No hearth smoke drifts upward. Only moonlight and aurora illuminate the landscape. You step farther along a narrow trail that leads toward higher ground. From here, the settlement appears smaller, its lights clustered gently beside the fjord like distant embers. You can see how carefully it was placed, protected by mountains, sheltered by water, open to fishing routes, yet distant enough from larger powers to remain quiet. The fjord itself stretches long and dark beneath you, its surface reflecting the slow green shimmer of northern light. Water moves even when unseen, tide flowing gently through its length, guided by forces far beyond the village below. You listen. The sounds here are fewer, but clearer. Wind brushing grass, branches shifting overhead, a distant bird crossing the fjord in night flight. Somewhere along the tree line, an animal moves cautiously through undergrowth, not threatening, simply living its own quiet rhythm. The wilderness is not separate from the settlement. It surrounds it, feeds it, shapes it. Wood for building comes from these forests, game from these hills, fresh water from streams that descend from higher ground. By day, villagers walk these paths gathering what they need. By night, the land reclaims stillness. You sit for a moment on a smooth stone overlooking the fjord. From this vantage, the entire world feels balanced. Village warmth below, cold open sky above, dark forest to one side, water stretching outward toward unseen distances. The aurora grows stronger now, green ribbons unfolding slowly across the heavens. They ripple without sound, drifting above mountains and rooftops alike. This light has passed over countless settlements before this one. Generations have looked upward at the same silent movement, standing where you stand now, listening to wind over open land. The settlement does not disturb the wilderness. It rests within it. Timber homes built from surrounding forest, paths carved gently into earth, boats drawn from local wood and shaped for local waters. Life here depends on balance rather than expansion. And at night, that balance becomes visible. Human presence, small but steady. Nature vast but calm. You rise slowly, turning back toward the cluster of lantern light along the fjord. The path leads downward again, toward the quiet homes, toward the sleeping longhouses, toward shared warmth behind timber walls. The wilderness remains behind you, watchful, still, untroubled. Above, the aurora continues its slow passage, casting faint reflections across frost and fjord alike. And beneath it all, the Viking settlement rests gently within the greater northern landscape, held between forest, water and sky. You return slowly toward the settlement, the path leading you back from open land to the quiet cluster of homes beside the fjord. From a short distance away, the village appears almost dreamlike. Lanterns burn low within timber walls, their light softened by smoke vents and narrow door openings. No figures move along the paths now. Evening tasks are complete. Doors are closed. Hearths have settled into low ember glow. You walk gently between the longhouses, your steps softened by frost along the ground. Inside each hall, families sleep together in shared warmth. Children wrapped in furs, parents resting beside them, breathing slow and steady beneath timber beams darkened by years of hearth smoke. Outside, boats drift quietly along the shoreline. Ropes creak faintly as the tide shifts beneath them, wood answering water in soft, rhythmic tones. The fjord lies calm, its surface reflecting the sky like dark glass. Above, the aurora moves in slow silence. Green light unfurls across the stars. spreading gently from horizon to horizon. It passes over rooftops, over animal pens, over the empty docks and winding paths below. This light has watched countless nights like this. Settlements sleeping, fires dimming, families resting between the labors of one day and the beginning of the next. Wind moves lightly along the water's edge, never harsh, only present, a low companion to the stillness. You pause once more at the shoreline, looking back across the village. Homes glowing faintly, boats resting, smoke rising thinly into the night air. Everything held in quiet balance. And as the aurora continues its silent passage overhead, the Viking settlement sleeps fully now, wrapped in warmth, held by water, and watched over by the endless northern sky.